Welcome, welcome to my lovely IHP community and the 5D Collective as we conclude a little bit on our topics for the day and throughout the weeks and the past weeks. Safe haven, secure base. So when you're able to be that for yourself, this is when you are going to enjoy your relationships, and you're also going to know about the emotionally immature people not choosing, and then you're going to know about how you get to make those conscious choices of what you want to do with your own life. When it comes to the safe haven, secure base, it's a very clear-cut equation. And if you're new, FYI, 5D Mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, I'm a securely attached, integrated brain, restored, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating person. God is discerning, equanimous love, and all my brothers and sisters, they are love. And if their whole stays like a whole, then I know what Jesus taught me, to forgive, to turn the other cheek, and to be blessed that everybody else is going to be blessed, and that we all have damage beneath the feet. So everybody walk the walk. Some choose not to believe in themselves, and some also choose not to become accepting of others and humble with their wisdom. Okay, so when you meet a buffoon or two, you know who they are. And that's why once you get one buffoon, a two buffoon, a three buffoon, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so the people who spiral down in their brains don't know how to use their brain because it's not a integrated one. And that's why the disturbances in self-organization, a very good video helps with that. Why your CPTSD isn't getting better. And that's where it's Patrick Tian. But people I've noticed, whether it's standard PTSD or CPTSD or any of pathologies, they don't go take care of them. So I hang out with different types of people, and I can tell you the ones who do, they participate, for example, in practices and events like the ones that I talked to you about throughout the day that I got to get a stream of consciousness from. So some of them are doing it because it's a trending topic, but others are doing it as they take care of their health. And those are the ones I appreciate making relationship with. So I got to meet a couple of new people. One is an American Italian like me. I got to leave with a friend of mine that we got to talk about, our panic attacks and our way of handling IBS. And in fact, what happened at the event, it was amazingly funny because that's what we laughed about together as we were leaving, is we both had the same thought when we were being told how this thing was going to go down. And it's very hard for someone to find a person who is open to, as our lovely Sadhguru pointed out. Let me share the quote in case you didn't tune into any of the other stuff today. It's hard to find people that want to go beyond their limitations with the panic attacks, the IBS, and as a mystic with the clairs and all that other stuff. So you'll see they think you lose people, that they don't expand their heart, their mind, their oversoul. They don't expand their clairs. They don't use their prefrontal cortex, okay? So going beyond your limitations is far more important than staying within the limitations of what you like. However, you still will choose based on what you subjectively like, because the reality is, as Robert Sapolsky with Determined points out, those first 3 years of life are how the brain is worked and your subcortical areas. So the PDP framework that I took with Dr. Daniel Siegel, way more accurate than the Enneagram thing, because I still will get frazzled when I'm moving around. Physical safety is my number one priority, and my body actively still responds to shit, what's going on, which is why, again, it's more of the physical safety. Then I'm a self-agent, so the bonding is very bare minimum, and I'm a straight shooter, okay? And here's where our Sadhguru shared another quote yesterday. If only you can go through difficult times with inner grace, you will see that every situation we face is an opportunity to enhance our lives. When you have the integrated brain and the restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating, mystic, spiritual, mindful, and or simply mindful life, even without using the word, you're going to know this, because that's why inner grace, inner growth, inner eustress, because it's not a difficult time. I got a person, I got a situation. God is good. He gave me a lucky life. That's how Maria feels about her life. Okay, so I know everybody walked a path, and mine, I got some shards. I got some, glass, but it's not, how hard you hit or how hard you can get hit. I can get angry. I can get sad. I can get mad. I can get, okay. Then that's the part of why we're very enamored with what we do. No, work is stressful. When it is your inability to manage your body, mind, and emotions that makes it stressful. Thank you, Sadhguru. So yes, the ones who are performing that follow pseudo-intellectuals, that don't go and take care of their CPTSD or PTSD or childhood, however it is they call it, I see them as they flock to streets and look up to people who are not to be looked up to. In fact, as again Patrick Tan shares, a part of healing is the shock of realizing how unsafe we were as children. Okay, and then we also have our lovely Ron Siegel. When we are talking about acceptance, he says it is very important to talk about the difference between accepting experience as it is arising in our body and endorsing a certain kind of behavior. And Patrick Tan shares, hurt people who hurt people, they don't have to. They can actively work on their abusive behavior so they can change it. And that's another thing we talked about today. It is how going beyond your limitations starts with healing all of you and any adaptive child part, unkind, abusive behavior due to an unsafe and abusive environment where you were taught relationships, the world, and life are mean, scary, and broken. So you learn the language of love and kindness as your true self with healed child parts leading your life as a functional inner child adult, and you head on over. You're going to want to do mindfulness and mindsight and mindset. You're going to have a fun time. That's because you have fun doing self-help, personal development, spiritual growth, because you have an open heart. And through that open heart, the inner growth mindset and all of that, which is awareness, accountability, and regulation, is something you enjoy. You don't feel pressured in a safe haven, secure-based relationship. You don't feel afraid. You don't feel that you want to withdraw. And if you do, again, healed people will know I am right now in a state of fear because I'm afraid of intimacy, because I'm afraid of vulnerability. But if they're emotionally vulnerable with themselves, if they're finally their actual self, they will say, this comes from my childhood and I'm not going to project. And so that's the part of them putting into practice what they preach, because they want their healed, functional child adult life. Okay, so you decide I'm committed to me, which is then how you're going to also be committed to life and love. And so you will know, as Gabor Mate points out, addiction, that any behavior that gives you temporary relief, temporary pleasure, but in the long term causes harm, has some negative consequences, and you can't give it up despite those negative consequences. The right question is not about why the addiction, but why the pain. But he's pointing out the pain because it goes back to childhood. Okay, so the elite tier of the emotional invincibility people and mental right here, we know love and flirting and healthy relationships are easy because that's how it works. So mixed messages, inconsistencies are nothing more than a person who will have a destructive mode, and they will think they're being brilliant while on screen they play Russian roulette. And I, as a logical, genuine, intellectual, and emotionally mature person, will simply know that they may not be as toxic as can be. Thank you, Michael Yapko. But I definitely would not want to be in a committed relationship with them. However, can I be around them? Sure. So Michael Yapko, he shares, genuinely toxic, okay, you don't want to have those people around, but a lot of times, he says, you don't know how to handle them, you don't know how to respond to them, you don't know how to react to them. That's why people cancel each other. Instead of looking into, how about I develop effective responses? How about I become mentally, emotionally, and physically mature, and I navigate as a functional adult? We're functional children here because I'm a functional child adult. Where's my lovely Jesus? Here's you, you're all my angels, we're all angels, and that's because, again, I'm a spiritual, self-help, mindful, mentor, content creator, podcast host as a mystic, okay? I don't come in the absence of my faith and my mysticism, but I am the pseudoscience woo lady because I use what I'm learning to accompany that which supports people who want to move beyond limitations. So my friend and I and the people that we had a good time, we are having a good time because we're talking about things and expanding. The ones who I noticed who are doing it because it's a thing that they're doing, because it's trending, but they pretty much aren't hearing themselves. Okay, so let me finish with Michael Yapko. It is about being able to handle them, respond to them, react, instead of, cutting them out. And as he points out, he's like, at the end of the day, what is it really to define someone as a person who you can no longer relate to? Okay, so he shares how it's really a shame when dealing with relationships that hold great potential, that are going to be enduring relationships, that people give up on them. I'm going to say that Michael Yapko is an emotionally, mentally mature man, lovely, out of many. Terrio, Patrick Tiahan, the man who plays his little Russian roulette, he is a person that I can be relating to, but I will tell you he's a pseudo-intellectual because of the way he presented a bunch of topics and because of his in and out group mentality. So self-preservation is key, red flag, adaptive child part. Only their group is right. Only their way is right. In fact, they went on to say step-parents don't love their children, that men cheat, women cheat. I'm a polyamory woman. I'm a consensual, non-monogamous human being who has a laugh and more at all of those who are not securely attached. Because a person who says, I didn't cheat, it's like, okay. But a person, you're not poly enough, equally, really? Wow. Like, okay, then I don't understand. So the same look you see here, I was about 20 and I'm hanging out with people, and these human beings, they are couples and they are men, women, couples. I don't have theys, and I have some others, not in my friend circle at the time. Okay, so, but now that I think about them, I have also not theys. They don't use the pronouns, but she and he and he. And I'm not all cultured on all the political correctness, which is why I'm pausing to try and remember words that I'm not good with that. So at the end of the day, within the emotionally mature couples, all of them, there's not what I'm about to describe is what I'm saying. So they're open, accepting, they're welcoming, they know that virtue, value, integrity, that honor, and all of this, and health to those who are children is when you are a person who knows how to use your own nervous system, is how I'm going to break it down to you. It's not the words I speak. It is the nervous system of mine, number one, because you regulate based on my nervous system, child. And you're codependent. You're going to need me. And you're going to need me to have patience. And then you're going to need me to be able to regulate while I'm patient. Of course, there's imperfections, but the point is a third attunement, repairing ruptures, because I'm going to teach you how, if I make a mistake, I say I'm wrong, I'm sorry, and I'm going to apologize. I don't scare you. I don't threaten you. I don't make myself look like a monster while you are being simply a child. I don't treat you like my little soldier, and I don't expect you to be at my command, and I'm not even going to do it, okay? None of that. So when I see any of it, I just know, wow, I'm so happy I'm nowhere near you, because I would not want to be near you, because now I need to be polite like my mother taught me to, because I'm going to actively have to be polite. And with all my attachment and trauma education, I'm also going to have to hold my tongue, because the therapist told me, unless those human beings are in any way, shape, or form caring about noticing their unnecessarily rigidity and all that other, it's just, so again, the rigidity is an indication of the lack of ownership of the sense of self, the lack of sense of identity that is yours, because you don't own the sense of self. You don't have a secure attachment relationship with yourself or others. And you, in fact, don't have a window welcome to emotions and affect and anything when it comes up, because you have not been able to express in a healthy way when you were a little kid and you got angry, when you were a little kid and you got sad, when you were a little kid and you got afraid, when you were a little kid and you got scared, when you were a little kid, you got a person who, happiness and surprise, actively treated you with rigidity and fear and yelled at you or made sure you would listen to them, and there you go. You got plenty of people who are actually very unhealthy. And when I learned about the attachment categories, I learned that they initially thought the avoidance were healthy because they were able to ignore their parent as they came in. What they found out later, no, they have their emotional body cut down, because at the end of the day, while they were pretending to play and not giving two shits about the parent who walked in, inside the body, they were all excited and happy, or shit was going down, but they showed no inch of any of it because they're cut off, which is why they can do shit to their body that is completely sad. So the ambivalent, on the other hand, would be completely not letting go of the parent, and they'd be like crying. They would be just so devastated once they came back because they didn't know, what are you gonna do? And the disorganized, I won't even. That breaks my heart. The disorganized, I can't. When I saw it on a screen, I'm like, oh my God, please stop. I was like, oh, I wish I would have known all this stuff when I was like 20. That way I could have not told the people who were fucking, don't fuck, just leave them alone. Not tell anybody anything and just keep on moving forward with my life and just knowing, okay, red flag, red. And there you go. And that's it. Because any of people who are not safe haven seeker based, what I was going to say is they don't hurt me. Hurt people, no. Hurt people are emotionally immature and not safe. And that's it. And they actually think that they're brilliant. Well, I know you're not brilliant. If you're brilliant, then you would notice that you don't have a gooey ooey button. And I want where's your gooey ooey button, you know? So self-preserving people, they preserve a very unfortunate business, a rigid, chaotic identity that doesn't know love. Love is easy. It's free. That's why Gabor Mate says, you give love freely. I don't have any expectations, and you can express all the basic human emotions without any kind of fear of repercussion. In fact, he actually highlights what he did at one point in a birthday party, that he said, unfortunately, I passed on something. And it wasn't in a way of, it was a 3-year-old son who was establishing, I'm my 3-year-old, and it's a birthday party, I think it's his, and he says, I was, the society, all the people, well, sing. So I punished my kid because he didn't want to sing. And I didn't have to punish my kid because he didn't want to sing. I could have done something different instead. Because of all these I end up shaming him for nothing more than he just didn't want to sing a song. There's no need for him to have to sing me the song Happy Birthday and make everybody else happy. Okay, so these are examples that people give, and others, when they take it out of context, they're thinking you're always going to say yes to your kid. That's not it. If you understand an embodied brain and nervous system and where these people who are genuine intellectuals come from because of the knowledge they have, you're going to know what they're talking about. So the ones who assume that the modern day therapists are trying to hold anyone back are the same people I don't listen to, but I make fun of them, as you know. So a safe haven secure base is a person who has a 1-year-old that they enjoy, like I do, and a 3 to 7-year-old, because now we're all child versions of ourselves with adult versions who have emotional maturity, availability, and invincibility, because we all have the same heart. So we all can have sadness if we're not bonding, which is why we have compassion and empathy, and we don't actually use any of that which is shared together as something that you would bring up in interactions and moments. Okay, so there's a lot of unnecessary behavior by those who have abusive childhoods where they were taught that relationships are unsafe, and the 3-year-old will stand up and they will lie and they will act with spite and they will also do other things. And so by the 16-year age is your last child part, which is why when you meet the pseudo-intellectuals, they're self-preserving, and you'll notice that they're not only the same as what they were treated. They identify with the perpetrator. I'm just like, and they won't notice. That's not a good thing because you didn't get a good childhood, because until you take that full-fledged ownership of it, and that means I'm going to want to become my actual child self and vulnerable, okay? So they will identify with what was done to them, and then they will become it, and they will also spite it. Then they will also, though, at the same time, want to claim to know that they are compassionate, empathic, and whatnot. So they flip a switch. There's a very much, when they're in their left mode, life goes forward. Their right mode, structural dissociation comes up. It's a whole bunch of things. So that's why emotionally immature, no, they cannot physically control themselves. They can become aware, accountable, regulate, and get out of all of that business, yes. And then when they're ready to be in a good relationship, and that's with all of us. But in the meantime, when you're meeting them on the street, it's just a Cusco. So again, it's not a Lucifer, it's a half-a-brained person, is how I call them. And I know some people think that's not nice. I think it's not nice that since I was a kid, I got to put up with this shit. And I wasn't aware that I was already mindfully living. And I just noticed that teenagers didn't know how to handle confidence. So that's where my BFFF, she's the last of the hit of trios and whatnot that made me aware. I guess it must be my confidence. By the time I got to college, I wasn't thinking of insecure people because I had met them all. So I don't think of any of people who are insecure grown-ups as anything good or bad. I just know if they want, they don't have to be so insecure. They don't have to be projecting their childhood trauma around the world and think that they know everything. They could be way more their A game than they're, bringing. So putting all that to the side, everybody has wave of lights. Everybody has shards that you will have walked on. The part about what these people don't notice is that they think they can know how it feels to be you. And they then become completely blinded. And it's very much where that's a person who's not brilliant because your ego just got the best of you. And so that's anyone who doesn't understand. Emotionally immature people are in their biological rudeness. Thank you, Stephen Porges. So their ears are down. It's also why smart people like Michael Yapko and also Terry Real and even Dr. Daniel Fox, Dr. Daniel Siegel, anybody you learn from, Bessel van der Kolk, when somebody is in the moment, there's no point in you doing anything. It's not to avoid the conversation, is that when you're being reactive, and that's why I love that I know all these things, because when I didn't, is the one thing I wish I would have known as I moved into having clairs and having my oversoul was this, all the information I'm sharing with you. Because that was the saddest thing when I heard about all these explanations. I knew, because I know myself, that if I had had the knowledge, I would have put it into practice, because in little ways, shapes and forms, I have always put that into practice. But here's where I have in the past overestimated the capacity for people to use that which is a brain that is not actually because of me being polyamory, by the way, because there's a lady who says we overestimate. No, it's because I didn't realize that childhood trauma impeded the development of the brain and the corpus callosum. I didn't know of it. I didn't know of the prefrontal cortex. I didn't know about the hippocampus and the amygdala or temporal junction, whichever one. So I did not know that there were those who actually have the left and then the right, and then I know of the states of self. And so with that, now that I know all of it, I am very happily aware, and I have many friends, and I love to spotlight them in most humorous ways. I'm going to spotlight. So one of my friends, he has states of self or some shit is, I don't even know, because I don't have the right or permission, nor would I, to talk about something like this to him, because he follows the law. He lives life like everybody else. So I can tell you all because I've observed it, but also because I learned about it. Dr. Daniel Siegel showed me and explained when a person has states of self, you'll feel it because there's something within your nervous system that you'll perceive. And this has happened with my friend. So I know it's sad also because people will forget moments of time. So that's actually really sad. I think of that, where I will know that there are moments that I remember that they won't, and that they may even not know that we have talked about something. This has happened too, and actually it happens, I'm not going to say more often than not, but more often than I would like, where I will have spoken words and I'm completely, it's like it never happened. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of interaction, and above all, like, I'm basically investing my time in something that is not being cultivated by another person. However, it's not their fault. So again, if I'm choosing to consciously engage in time with you, I'm choosing it. I'm not going to hold you accountable for anything because I'm making the conscious choice. And then once I become aware of you having aspects that will make me invisible, I can't do anything because I'm not your brain and you're lacking to care when I have perhaps mentioned something because I wasn't aware. Because if it's a one time it happens, you're not aware. But then once you see the pattern, like, okay, so this happens more often than not. Okay, so this is where I'm now having to be aware of it. And so, again, it's not a fun thing. But the therapists that I talk to say, unfortunately, you can't do anything. If they don't want to come to us, they're just going to keep on walking and talking. And so, yeah, this facade friend of mine, he's not a facade, but I call my other friend facade, but this guy that has states of selves or whatever it is, I remember when he went from, pirate to another type of pirate to a rocker to basically it was kind of like a Superman to Clark Kent. And actually, the first time I met him, he was more of the dark Batman, like the evil Batman. And I was like, I don't think him and I are ever going to talk again. Instead, lo and behold, the second time I saw him, he was a really fun guy to be around. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't think we'd talk because you're really like all into like our world's shitty and stuff like that. So then it's a fascinating friendship, by the way. But anyways, yeah. So safe haven, secure-based people. It's when they're securely attached and they have their health in the forefront and they do take ownership of their behaviors. And so they don't hide them and they don't make up excuses, but also they don't brush them under the rug, which is where I really wanted to get to so we can close out our episode. When someone like my facade friend, he and others that I am contemplating, when they don't take the emotional immaturity stuff, it's because they will have brought something into the room. They will think that that's okay and that is part of their personality, and it's not part of your personality. It's actually you are using a child part at the very bare minimum that is being reactive in a way that is not happy, and so you're poking at me. And so this is the part of where when in a room I can hear a person speaking about life and they say, I saw people relaxing over there. And I kind of felt a little envy. I kind of felt a little spite. I kind of felt a little jealous. As a self-help personal development and spiritual growth person is where this is the opportunity for a person to grow. Oh, but everything, they're so serious. You don't get it, do you? The moment you will have spoken words like that, that's your emotion. Your body is telling you something. The fact that you're belittling it and dismissing it and not contemplating it to, wow, so I still feel this. And it's not that you have to think about it too long. It's, I have 24 hours to live. This miracle called life was gifted to me. What I am having is an emotion that is actually of envy and jealousy for someone who's relaxing, which tells me that I am not. Okay, so again, first taking seriously therapy, and then once you've learned how to regulate your nervous system, you continue with these lovely, like these events. That's why they're amazing to have. What I have noticed is there are people who just do them because they're trending topics, and they don't wake up invigorated, and they don't wake up and continue their day-to-day and expand. They are simply like a muse. They're just sharing their frequency without actually allowing themselves to notice that they can raise it and that they can work with the words and they can work with themselves. And then what it is you can manifest that life you want and stop tainting the picture of the world in the words that you're describing, because it don't match my world. And you know what, again, if you want a low frequency world, go hang out with the low frequency people. Say we're pretending. Some of us, we're not pretending. We don't pretend to do shit. We create resiliency. Because again, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I expand what I feel inside when it's something that can add a ripple effect? Which is why the Dalai Lama answers that dude who says, how dare you smile in face of all this suffering? And I'm like, did you not learn who the Dalai Lama is? I mean, really, God, this man, I don't even know. He must not know about business culture or something. Where is it? I forget where I put it, but I wanted to read it to you because he says it's not in spite of the suffering, or it's basically to be responsible to share a smile and to share happiness. So I agree. We're responsible because some of us, we will respond and then we will recalibrate, and so we will be able to share that love. And why wouldn't we, when so many apparently are so okay with being in misery? So misery wants company. Again, the minute you are telling me that you have some type of envy for somebody who's at ease, I just know that, wow, you could do something about it. And it doesn't matter how old you are. So when people are looking up to people who are older and thinking they're done, you're not done. You can continue to use your brain and work with thoughts and emotions. If you're used to being in a, again, modulated embodiment, that's because you might be used to it. But you can get used to being in this eustress, which is where the secure attachment get called boring, because of the way that we will be able to handle situations as they come up. but that's the part of where it's full of emotion, it's full of depth. But let me pause. So the part about our child parts, they live through us, and that's why I prioritize Maria's, all of my child parts. And when somebody shows me that they will be using any of my vulnerability in specific ways, I now will have my awareness, and then I will simply be a person who can recalibrate, because like nutshell therapy ladies, how to work with emotionally immature people, yeah, they're impeded in their brain's development and stuff. So that's it. Oh, and it's not an excuse. The ones I'll make fun of are the pseudo-intellectuals and the idiots who actually think they know better than the modern therapist. That's just because, I mean, why? I can pick on some of them, can't I? Actually, it's because they are a bad example for children, and also because I've noticed that the 20-year-olds who look up to the ones who are in the real streets need to hear a little bit more funny stories to maybe help them understand why you can be just as badass with your ownership of the sense of self and the ownership of your window welcome to tolerance and, the window welcome to affect and emotions, and to grow the tolerance. And then to also own the relationships, and so that you can actually feel versus pretend to be somewhere with an empty vase, because you actually have a heart that is broken, which makes no sense. So if you want love, but you're afraid for your heart to be broken, every relationship is a risk. Why are you going to even bother getting into one? The part that is very clear to any empowered, securely attached woman, man, or they, mystic or not, which is where I will always remember, as I tried to explain to people that are of our mystic collective, we're not actually destined for anyone, because destiny, you create it, one, but you have bonds, you build bonds, but you create a life with the individual and or individuals who will, when they wake up and when they go to sleep, and as they consistently move in their day-to-day, want to be growing old and healthy with you. Because again, I said healthy self-worth. That's a securely attached person. Otherwise, you're an idiot. Because moderation is key. So when I see anybody who is isolating, preserving, they think monoamory, polyamory is better, he, she is better, it doesn't matter, whatever words they want to bring to me. You are choosing a group. You can have your group. You can tell me all about it with your ventral vagal state. And with your eustress, we can have an exchange like we did. So again, we can talk about differences, and then I'll know that you're going to go to your corner, and in your home, you're going to have your frequency, and then I'm going to go, and so again, but we get to exchange and be civil. No, we get to be actually curious, open, accepting, and loving of each other. And I'm not going to tell you have to navigate at the frequency of enlightenment and master. No, you can navigate at your low frequency. You're not an energy vampire. You're simply a person who's in a safety behavior, which is why your voice won't be irritating to me. And my voice won't be irritating, might be irritating to some, because I'm a ventral energy. So the difference is my ventral energy will continue to call to your ventral energy. And your child parts, while you might be cut off, will continue to come up. And so like my gut is alerted when I'm in the presence of a buffoon, but the difference is I'm not a buffoon. So I notice why my gut's alerted, because my heart's closed, because I'm with a person who's half a brain. I don't need to say anything, because they still will have golden nuggets. I'm still interacting with a person. It's just a Pinocchio with a broken leg, a broken nose, a punched eye, and basically a buffoon, a clown, who is telling me they're brilliant, as they instead show me all of their hands, their destructive mode, their self-preservation, their lack of capacity to be flexible with their personality patterns and adaptable with their nervous system, also coherent, energized, and stable with their entirety, because they don't have a bilateral, vertical, overall integrated brain. They don't own their core narrative, solo, relational self, and so I don't have a person who owns their sense of self and is being their self. Now, I got a person who doesn't know anything except for whatever they're presenting to me. They just think it's badass. And you just allow that to be what is a great moment conversation. And again, I'm not speaking because I'm not threatened by you, because you're not a physical threat. You're not an emotional, mental threat. I'm emotionally, mentally, physically invincible because I'm in my ventral vagal state, which is the higher potential of our human species capacity. You meet any neuroscience, they'll tell you about the flow state. So once you understand that those things that are trending are not trends, meaning that yoga is a portfolio of ventral vagal toning exercises. Mindfulness and meditation, they support integration of the brain. But as Dr. Daniel Siegel presented, and Peter Levine and all the smart ones, please, please, please be very well aware that mindfulness, you want to put a disclaimer, or you want to make sure people understand when you're in the state of awareness, this is maximum uncertainty. We want to be sure to notice anything uncomfortable, and actually, if it gets really uncomfortable, you want to stop the exercise. And then you would like to please take us seriously in understanding trauma charges are stored in muscles, bones, and tissues. So that is not to be taken lightly. And you will want to take note to consult with somebody, because that's what you learn from smart somatic therapists, is that dysregulated, modulated, embodied people are not ready to explore the body because they still have a lot to uncover, and we don't know what happened in those first 3 years of life, and you don't want to get that window of tolerance to be broken. So they're not trying to hold anyone back. And meditation and mindfulness aren't bad, nor is yoga. No demons come out of you. But again, so people who don't care to believe in this stuff, they will make up rumors, like they did with a whole lady from My Cousin Vinny, that they made up a rumor because she did such a great job. I can't even believe that it lasted this long. She handled it as a securely attached, healthy, self-worth, emotionally mature woman. I'm so happy to have heard that interview before I came to do this other episode, because she totally rocked it. And that's why it's not even conspiracies only for action. I mean, at least that's, movie. My gosh, they made up that shit and it's still standing. No. So whenever you hear anybody who has some conspiracy going on when it comes to how to support each other to be safe haven, secure bases for each other, again, anybody who's talking about not going to therapy, to me, is a person who doesn't understand the value. Anybody who's talking about it openly with fun and, again, is very much aware of it, integration of brain, is having a very neutral time. Nobody is needing to push it upon anyone. So the part about maturity is that functional adults understand how it works, and it's the adaptive child, not securely attached people or codependent people who try to push it. Because martyrs and superiors and blamers, okay? So the energy of us just chit-chatting is one. I talk about attachment trauma all the time. Sometimes people say, okay, because you talk only about your stuff that you're working on, Maria, which we understand, we are going to be deciding. And I say, cool, you gave me some really great ideas. Now I know how to say, okay, since I talk about mystic, spiritual self-help, personal development, mindful stuff, what do you want to talk about? So that we don't have to talk about always what I want to talk about. And that's how you do it. And this is how we do it. This is how we do it. So we will be back with more. In the meantime, thanks for hanging out, stopping by, like, share, and subscribe, and share with anybody who you know wants to love, live, laugh, learn, expand, and not cast stones. And I believe in angels. And every single person and all of our lovely brothers and sisters hopefully will join us and get heaven in the body, the kingdom of God, and navigate their ventral vagal state. And let me see if I can find it, because I don't know if I got to share it. When you wish upon a star, a song by Cliff Edwards. Makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star as dreamers do. Fate is kind, she brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longing. Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. So, with the song, what I can share with you all is that when you do what you do, and you do it twice and you're enjoying it, and then 3 times and 4 times, okay? But also when you have faith, and that's in God and Source and Akash, Anima Mundi, when you want to talk to me about the spiritual plane, I'm going to say, if you are one who expands as an empowered feminine, you'll understand in moments where you may have had those things called wishes or prayers. Okay, because that's the part of where people sometimes, I've noticed that they will continue to flip and flop. But if you are a person who's consistently a channeler, a downloader, so you understand this relationship that is yours, this is for my lovely spiritual empowered feminines for a minute. Masculines, if they're empowered, some might be spiritual, I don't know, you know your stuff. Okay, so I'm not gonna put it in a T, that's not how we do things here. But so if you have a relationship, what I'm saying is you don't think of it, if it doesn't come the way you want, as if it's a good or bad thing. You will notice that that is your opportunity to transform and expand and not budge on that which is faith or not faith, but you're working with the chart, the emotion. And so remember, mental, emotion, physical plane mastery. That's spiritual growth. And so that's why I'm saying you don't change it up, like when they did what they did with the twin flame stuff. They started changing shit up. You don't change up a story because you're not seeing what it is. You also don't become bitter or resentful or like nothing's ever going to be good. Okay? You allow yourself to know what love is, and you consistently are able to move in the direction of that which you will have chosen, because you believe in the wish that you will have made and the dream that you are persevering on. And that's the part of where in life in general it will be to lead a good life. Safe haven, secure base of yourself. Put the mask on me. That which wants to walk with me always walks with me, because their amygdala will be alerted in the same way as mine. And if not, then their amygdala is not interested in walking a walk with me as a consistent contingent communicator in that which is that frequency that we're talking about. Okay, so it's not boring in any way, shape, or form. You grow personality patterns because you grow and expand temperament, because your attachment is secure. So you consistently have every day full of fun, because again, integrated brains, we're energized, we're kind, we're compassionate, we're loving. Every day is a joy, which is why I wouldn't go to a corner to express my joy. And I wouldn't have to go to a corner to express my sadness either, but I know that the safe space is this little place, which is Maria, because I will consistently be able to reassure my 0-1-year-old and my 3 to 7-year-old, and then I will not have to be concerned with those who don't have my best interest, because they tend to not heal where they have attachment wounds. And so when a person has those, again, they come out of nowhere. Once you've seen them, though, you know. And so emotionally immature people, they continue to be Cuscos. And Cuscos lie at the end of the movie with Pacha. And Pacha continues to be Pacha. And so it doesn't create any kind of unnecessary, relationship of fighting or not fighting. But again, it's not fulfilling to a person who is alive and is whole. And so it's a half of a, how can I explain it? I can only bring to you part of me, because I am completely full and I have so much, but you are not. And then you get to turn it around. So kind of like the Jekyll and Hyde thing, okay? Not to those extremes, but I can equate it to that. I mean, you have even just one flare up. I know that if you're not taking ownership of it, that you have decided to leave it alone, which means you've decided to allow that emotional immature part. I am a perfectionist who's imperfect, but when it comes to being able to master your mind and your emotions and your thoughts, not control, master, yes, you can master it. I'm self-aware, accountable, regulating as a mindfulness practitioner. I would be a liar to say that I can't spot it. And I'm so attachment trauma informed that I'm always spotting it when it happens. So if somebody points out to me something, that's why I listen. Because I'll be aware. I won't feel guilty. I'll be aware. I want to make sure that I can see if there's something I can do. If I can't, I'll say, look, I can't do that. What you just asked me, I can't do, because I know how I work. And I'm sorry that you're sad, upset. I really am. That's when I'm the bitch of the situation. But I'm like, I can't do any differently. Yes, you can. No, I can't physically, but I won't be able to prove that either. So I'm not going to bother trying. That's how a person who is empowered and has healthy self-worth will be sorry, but they won't budge. This is why we're not wavering. And I had it somewhere with my lovely little ones when thriving. It's we're not wavering. And anybody who knows me, where are you? Yeah, they are confident in their views and don't waver. That's why people say you judge. I say no because there's no charge, but I don't budge, which is why when my facade friend and I were friends again, they said, wow, she must really love you. She doesn't change her mind. And I said, I didn't change my mind. I just did what God taught me, which is, and my mother, to not be a bitch and an asshole because my friend had no friends and he was in the shithole. And I would have felt shitty because that would have been the wrong thing to do. Also, I was only angry at my friend because he betrayed my trust, because he disrespected our friendship, because he would do this. So I'll close with him because he's a good story. And this is the part of where, as I said, I am today attachment trauma informed. I'm so happy that I am, because now I can know, besides already having learned from him what not to do, now I just know you either become who you really meant to be or you won't. And I'm already used to that. So my facade friend, there were 3 encounters we had before I stopped talking to him for a whole 5 years. And in all 3 encounters, he made it seem like he was into us meeting and seeing, and that he missed me. And there's too much to the story for me to keep you continuous long, so I'm not gonna. So that 3rd time, it was strike, you're out. I'm done with you. You're pretending to care about seeing each other when in the meantime you're lying through your teeth because you don't want to hang out, which is fine because you have a new relationship. You've decided to do the relationship. I totally get it. You don't want to hang out with your girlfriend and your girlfriend. You want to just go and fuck and do your own shit. Okay, so it's fine. He still thinks that I was upset at one ride. Okay, so his idea, because he said that he decided for me what it is that I got upset about, even though I explained to him why I got upset. That is a person whose effective realism and whose own justification and whose own story is their truth. You don't prove your intent and you don't prove your story. But when people decide that they know what you're thinking, no, you don't. But I'm not going to be able to prove it to you, and I won't bother. So the minute you have a person that's not acknowledging that they've just made up the subjective experience that is yours, you leave it alone. Because they will not, unless they respect their own subjective experience, their own sense of self, their own emotion, their own thought, and their own path. And then they finally realize, I will not ever know how you feel in your embodied brain. And I will respect that, because otherwise I'm an arrogant asshole who's an idiot. Period. This is all you need to know. But they're an idiot who doesn't acknowledge it. So I like to be nice, polite, because again, I mean, really... I don't want to be not friends with everyone. No, I'm not friends with people that I don't want to be friends. So this is the other part. My amygdala decides for me, and I follow my body. And if I don't want to be your friend, no, we're not going to become friends. I'm not a bitch. I just didn't want to be your friend. 3 years you've known this. So that's another human being. But my facade friend taught me how not to engage with people once we are friends again 3 years down the line. All I asked her is to be yourself. So when people have a paused, distorted self and they're performing, I know that it's happening. But I don't really pay too much attention to it because, again, I know what my friend did, and it's to a T the same stuff all these people. It doesn't matter if they're avoidant, ambivalent, or disorganized. It's all the same. It's the teenager in the room, and then they flip it up. And whatever flips they got going on, I mean, really, they're all a wheel. And so once you've learned their pattern, it's not that you want to learn it, but they come out in the same way that they always will. They're not aware, they're not accountable, and they're not regulating. So I believe, like Michael Yapko and all the other emotionally mature individuals who can and want to, we can be friends with all of our brothers and sisters, because the ones who end up in prison are the ones who we know are going to be there, and then the ones who followed 7 to 14, they're not charming to us. We just think, wow, they're buffoons, but we're going to have always buffoons. So at the end of the day, thanks for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe. If you do know, again, somebody who likes to do self-help, personal development, let them know about IHP, and have a good one.